Hi, I'm Pastor Ray. Welcome to DB Clips. How can we overcome our brokenness? We live in a very broken world filled with sin and suffering. None of us are exempt. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 7 through 10 gives us three life-transforming truths that can heal our brokenness. Here they are. We have an all-surpassing power that has overcoming potential that comes from the life-giving presence of God. Let's take each truth one by one as we unpack 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 7 through 10. Here's the first one. We have a surpassing power. Verse 7 says this, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us." The phrase jars of clay is common Bible metaphor for human weakness. Our lives are very fragile, but we have this treasure in our jar of clay in our lives. And the treasure is this surpassing power that comes from God and not from us. I mean, think about this. We have a power that goes beyond our natural God-given power. Our natural God-given power is limited, but God's power is limitless. That's why Paul was able to say in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 8 through 9, "3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take this thorn in the flesh from me." He's talking about his brokenness. But the Lord responds by saying to him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." And so Paul responds to that by saying, "Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Here's the point. No matter how great your brokenness is, God's power is even greater to help you overcome that brokenness. How can we overcome our brokenness? We have a surpassing power. Here's number 2, that has overcoming potential. Verses 8 and 9 of our text shows us how this surpassing power gives us the promise of overcoming potential in every area of our life. Verse 8, he says, "We are afflicted," or hard-pressed in every way. He's talking about the pressures of life. The decisions, the demands, the deadlines, school, job, bills, family, marriage, children, health, traffic. Yeah, those are the pressures of life. But he gives us this promise, but we are not crushed. And then the second part of verse 8, he says, "We are perplexed." He's talking there about the perplexities of life, the questions, the doubts, the confusion, the uncertainties, and even fears of life. But here's the promise, but we are not driven to despair. We're not driven to hopelessness. And then in verse 9, he says, "We are persecuted." He's talking about really the people in our life. People can slander us, make false accusations against us, betray us, have malice and wrath against us. But here's the promise, but we are not forsaken. And then the second part of verse 9, he says, "We are struck down." He's talking about the problems of life: divorce, disease, death, loss of job, physical disabilities. But here's the promise once again, but we are not destroyed. So how can we overcome our brokenness? We have a surpassing power that has overcoming potential. But here's number 3, that comes from the life-giving presence of God. In verse 10, it says this, "Always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be manifested in our bodies. So by grace through faith in Christ Jesus, we are reconciled to God by Jesus' death, and we are healed and made whole by Jesus' life-giving presence." See, this life-giving presence means that Christ not only empowers us, but also he becomes our ultimate meaning, hope, and happiness in life. Let me give you a diagnostic question. What people, things, or circumstances in your life, if you were to lose them, would make you feel that life is over, that you had lost all meaning, hope, and happiness in life? You see, when you begin to experience inordinate emotions, when you feel crushed, driven to despair, forsaken, destroyed, using the language of our text in verses 8 through 9, you must ask yourself, what am I losing right now that has become my life more than Christ? You see, it is having this negative effect on my life, creating brokenness, because it has become my meaning, hope, and happiness more than Christ. I'm being controlled by it. You and I must identify it and replace it with Christ. To the degree that you live more and more in the reality of the life-giving presence of Christ, and He becomes your meaning, hope, and happiness in your life, more than anything else, is to the degree you will experience His surpassing power that has overcoming potential in your brokenness. If you would like to learn more, go to our website at dbcc.com, find the sermon series, Wholeness in a Broken World, and look for the sermon titled Brokenness. God bless you.